Ophiopogon or black mondo grass. I like this plant a lot. I remember when we first planted it being wasn't hardy here and wouldn't make it. But people say there's no color in the winter. I look at all those colors. There's the black mondo grass. There's the chocolatey brown of the border jewel that is hanging over the rocks. I cut a lot of that off, Steve, because it was almost down to the bottom of the rock wall.
Yeah.
There's the epimedium that we'll look again at later, which might be called Sandy Claus. There's a philopendula hanging out there. The hellebores up above.
Mosses, the little ground cover Veronica over here.
Yeah, Irish moss. All those different colors are there. If you just arrange them and put them in places like this is by the front door and out our bedroom window, so we can see this all the time. Look at that Veronica. That's that little Veronica. Does that look like it's in any kind of stress at all? No wonder the Veronica that lives in as a weed in the lawn does so well and becomes a whole mass covering the grass. And this is our green and gold, a native ground cover that we're getting started. We've shown it to you a couple of times, but green and gold, it's green and green and green and green and green through the winter time. Love it, covers the ground. Did I tell you about this, Steve? I moved those two boxwoods.
We planted these boxwoods at the same time.
All from the same place.
But see, you could see this dry area in the back. These were set farther back. They were getting less water, and you could see the difference in the color.
So I moved them. And I told Steve when I looked at this picture, I went, oh my gosh, I moved them wrong. They're in the same relative location to each other as they were when they were in the underneath the eaves. But these are meant to be someday. That's 2 legs of a jumping lab. And these are 4 legs of a standing lab that I intended to have there with a person trying to control them in one of those silhouette cutouts against the wall. So this lab was going to be jumping toward that lab. Well, now that I've put them at the same relative location, this lab would be jumping toward the sidewalk, like hanging out on the sidewalk. I said, I have to reverse the legs now and have it jumping toward the person. So I just moved those in December, about the middle of December, maybe the 20th of December. I just moved those and I'm going to have to move them again in the spring. Such is life in the garden, right? Golden satin grass, not evergreen, but still has a presence, and I like its shape. I have to rescue that grass out of there. That sweet woodruff is spread around, and we want the ground cover. That's our intention, is to cover the ground. So I'll rescue the golden satin grass and put it back into the garden, I think. While I was looking just to the left of where that golden satin grass is, I saw this and went, what's, oh, right. These are my pine cone mulch. Lots of pine cones came down this year. Burgart and sage in the background there. One of our beautiful evergreens. That is marsh marigold, which generally blooms in March, and one year was up and starting to bloom in January. Marsh marigold, which has been, it's an ephemeral, it bloomed and then it went away last, it was probably completely gone by June. And there it is, coming up again. Something terrible going on outside of the
Oh yeah, here it's no moving branches and Norman's out.
So the front garden, you may remember that I took out the last strip of lawn that was along the side here. And now we're dealing with the problem of having all that rain that we had in the fall. And a lot of rain falls on the pavement and then ends up in the garden. And it has super saturated that edge, making it softer than ever it was before. And yet the plants haven't moved out into it. Yeah. So any tire that hits it is gouging it. But looking at what's going on there, right there's color out there too, even though it is, you know, some neighbors probably think it's pretty messy. We don't. That's Veronica in can, or a gray leaf Veronica, that green cluster right there. And at the bottom left corner, you can see chocolatey colored leaves. That's the border jewel ground cover that I put in there. And I always look at these and go, oh no, border jewel coming there and coming there next to the lavender. And the lavender, most of those are seedlings. Lavender, they obviously like it there, but they're not going to be able to put up, they're not going to stand up to that ground cover coming from there and the pearly everlasting coming from the other side. It's so hard to give up a plant. It's so hard to say, okay, I put you out there as just a temporary thing. But you know, you have to do that if you want to have lower maintenance, and you have to say, let the plants take care of themselves.
There's a chance lavender might hold a clump in there because it's woody.
Yeah, maybe. Ruth is wondering whether marsh marigold needed wet feet. With that, actually, that edge that I was just showing you is where all this water goes and then down to the main drain. So
Put
we,
'em down the base.
so we put some marsh marigold there originally in the bottom part where it is definitely wetter. But it spread itself up to the edge, and if it likes it up there, that's fine.
Yeah.
But you can see where a delivery truck for the neighbor going into the neighbor's driveway swang wide and through the garden here this way. And then it was a different truck that did that there. I've already popped that loose. Don't fill in ruts if you've got ruts from construction going on in your yard or something like this at the edge of the road. Don't put soil on top. What's happened is it's been packed down and furrowed up. I went through the whole thing with a fork and loosened the tread. It's loose, it will shift, and everything will eventually settle back in, but don't go dumping soil on top of compacted stuff, because that doesn't help the situation at all. There's a dianthus, bats pink. We're going to be talking about a different dianthus when our guest comes today. And right there, right in the trench, there's the golden thyme. It's fine. It says, okay, you crushed me, but just give me air. I can't breathe around my roots right now. We went through and popped it up. It's fine. It will fill in. We won't see those things next year. This golden thyme is incredible, Steve. Steve was off rearranging dogs. I didn't tell you about this, Steve. I think you were gone that day. This is at the school complex where they put in a new digital sign for the elementary and middle school to have the same kind of high-tech stuff that the high school does. And they just put in new wiring and stuff to put that sign in. And it was a very shadowy day, and there was a bus sitting next to me. But I think you can see all of the excavation that they did to get there. They just threw all that soil on top and mounded a tree that's mounded too deep anyway, and a bush too deep. They just threw the soil on top of it. And most people don't realize that that's a problem. I find myself wanting to contact the school and say, can you have the contractors pull that stuff away? Because I kind of care whether the kids have working stuff too. That garden. Yeah, away from the road. This is Pulsatilla vulgaris, or windflower, pasqueflower, that likes it. It belongs in this environment, and we don't cut it back because it does this. It lays down and makes its own mulch.
Mm-hmm.
And we consider that an excellent ground cover. If it lays down near the ground and then it's just going to grow up through itself, and it's a thick enough foliage that falls down that you don't have a lot of weed seeds getting through, that's our idea of a good mulch.
And you could see there's very little other
Stuff
kind of
growing in there.
stuff thrown in there.
Yep. Some columbine did manage to get in there, and among the juniper, you can see the juniper back there. And like the plants in the back, they were showing it's growing. That's new foliage coming out on it. And it's
Popping right up.
not hurting it to do that. Look at that fir. When we moved in, underneath all the junk that was grown by the spruces, all there was right here, Steve.
This.
There was this, I thought somebody had planted a dwarf fir and it got
We were
covered
hoping.
by all these vines and stuff. And
But-
it's called releasing. If you're in the woods, for instance, and you've got something all overgrown and you prune to let light in, that's called releasing a tree. Well, we release the tree, and in 6 years, it has grown from that top up. It's got to be 8 feet.
It's going to
8, 9
replace
feet.
those two spruces quicker than we thought.
Yeah, we're gonna have to have the arborists in anyway,
Yeah.
because we got a lot of breakage again from this storm that happened last night. But we need to take more branches of the spruce off above it in order
So that it doesn't
so that
affect.
it doesn't flatten itself out again.
Yeah.
Yarrow, this is moonshine. We'll be talking about this one later, and look at it growing, all the new foliage coming out right in the base.
All new.
Not hurting it. We think of fall as we're done until next spring. Plants don't. Like butterfly bush. Butterfly bush has no idea to stop growing. We leave ours up because we like when the snow is on it and the birds sit on it. And the gray foliage does help as a counterpoint to other things. Now we're looking for Cheryl and Pierre to join us.
Oh, they're here. They have arrived. They were very, very timely. And we only have a couple of questions so far. So hopefully we can get to the experts pretty quickly.
Well, good.
Um,
Cheryl and Pierre, glad you're here.
Yep. Some very quick clarifications about the campanula. The Karen thinks it was maybe harebell. Someone else said maybe it was what was it? Mountain shoot. It was, I scanned, it was gone.
I'm pretty sure it's Serbian bellflower. When I looked it up, the blue water, was it blue waterfall? Is that the right name, Karen?
Blue.
Yeah. When I looked up that species, I came up with Serbian bellflower, which is the same one as that one, but that one is the species. If you have a variety, and we'll let Pierre talk about this later, if you have a variety, it might be a hybrid even. But what I found was Serbian.
Yep. Yeah. Blue waterfall, Karen says, and it was Mary who identified it as blue waterfall. And then the green and gold plant, because Michelle is interested in collecting choices for a lawn substitute. The green and gold thing that Priscilla identified, Chrysanthemum. Yeah, Virginianum.
Yes, that's it.
Okay, great. So we are correct on those IDs. Thank you, Mary and Priscilla. Great job. You addressed Ruth's question about marshmallow gold needing wet feet. And then the next thing we were thinking about was from Squeaks. And Squeaks is curious what's going on with Michigan Gardener Mag these days. Do you have any scuttlebutt there?
I thought the Michigan Gardener magazine went all electronic last year. And I have not talked to Eric or Julia.
Sometimes he takes December, January.
Well, the winter's been
He's
taken
changed.
off for years. and-
He changed to, he was doing 10 issues. I think they might be only doing 9 to last, where he took 2 months off, and
But
this might be, but I haven't talked to him in a while.
Yeah, I can check and find out for you what they're planning on doing. I know a lot of, I suspect a lot of advertisers may be doing what one that we listened to talking about. Should we renew our advertising contract with Michigan Gardener? I'm thinking, I'm not sure that that's reaching the right people for us. That we like to read magazines in paper, but other people like to read them electronically.
Yeah. Also, just to let other folks know, the thing about the chat showing you who is joining and leaving as a guest, and that kind of gets in the way of the chats, that is not a personal setting. I don't think there's anything you can change on your end about it. It's something that Janet and Steve and I will figure out if there's any seminar-based setting that we can do. It won't change for this meeting, but just flagging that, yeah, we're aware of it, and it's not on your end, it's on Zoom's end. Actually, they started doing that, and I know it does make the chat a little bit more difficult to follow, at least early on.
Thank you. Thank you, Sonia. Thank you very much.
And I think that's the questions we have, unless someone wanted to put a hand up or add anything else.
Good, then we're on time, and I didn't need to use any of my escape buttons to catch us up. So we will call that the end of In Our Garden, with just a reminder that season 5 is coming up beginning of April, and we are changing things. Let other people know. We're going to start doing our webinars once a month at the first Saturday of each month. And on the weeks where there's not a webinar, every Friday evening, we'll have a 7 to 8 p.m. chat like we just had now.
Yep.
In Our Garden, question and answer. People have been telling us that they'd like to be there, but the timing wasn't good for them. And we think that this sharing of what's going on in the garden, what are you doing, how are you doing it, that's the most important thing.
It'll help everybody.
Yeah. So check our website and subscribe, or all you gotta do is send us an email and say, I want to be in for season 5. We'll tell you what to do, which is not much, because we sign you up immediately. And that means that you'll get the rest of season 4 as a bonus.
And you get the previous library, all
That's right.
5 seasons.
Yeah, every subscriber has access to the whole library. Okay.